Let's see. All right. I think we're live. Do you see live on your end?
It does. Yep.
Okay. Yay. All right. Happy Friday, everybody. While we are kicking this off, let me just go to my personal page really quickly. I see us there. We are live, Miss Kelly. I am excited to be here with you guys, or with you today, Kelly. I am really quickly, okay, tagging you. I'm saving. Again, I always preface this. I'm like, I am not the high-tech guru over here. So I'm always doing the things. Now that I know your husband works in IT, he can like give us like the flag, like, yes, it worked. What Tish did worked. Do
right.
You see yourself
you are on my page? We are good.
Yay! Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to be here with you today, Kelly. Welcome, welcome. And for those of you that are watching on my personal page that don't know Kelly, Kelly Whalen joined Park Lane. Has it been a month, Kelly?
Not quite. No, probably about 3.5 weeks.
3.5 weeks. Very short 3.5 weeks ago. And I'm excited for you guys, for those of you that follow me, to get to know her better. If you're watching on her page, my name is Tish Mefford, and I haven't personally known Kelly very long, but I've known of Kelly. I've known of her experience and the success that she's had for many years now. We have a lot of common connectors, and so I'm excited to be here. We're talking for the first time today.
We are.
and we hopped on about 10 minutes ago for the first time. So like, so Kelly, thank you. First of all, thank you for agreeing to do this today.
Of course. Well, thank you for inviting me. This is fun.
And Kelly and I have a couple things in common. We both have 3 kids. Mine are a little bit older, but how old are your 3 boys, Kelly?
16, 13, and 9.
Okay. And
3 different schools. So
I was at that stage in life that in itself is a whole nother life.
It is another level.
It requires a whole lot of planning and execution. That is for sure. Yes. But anyway, Kelly, share with everybody. I'm just going to let you be the one that shares your background. So share with everyone watching today. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you kind of landed here.
Okay, sure. So you already know that I'm a boy mom.
Yes.
That's what I always lead off with in my background. But even though I live in Charlotte now, I'm actually a very proud Ohioan. So born and raised, grew up in Cleveland, wound up in DC for work and raising my family for about 14 years. And then we've been in Charlotte for about 9. So I've lived kind of a little bit all over. And it's funny because when I knew we were going to chat about today and chat about my background, there's a really big parallel, I think, as far as kind of like changing life path or kind of course, and is how I wound up in Charlotte. So I was a full-time working mom for the first 7 years, I guess, when I had the other 2 living in DC, double income, doing the commute, the whole thing, daycare, you name it. It was just how we rolled, and it was fine. And I joke that everything was, that Luke was planned, but everything after was not. It's basically how that went. So I was on maternity leave from a full-time job that I loved, so excited to go back to. And when it was time to go back, my first day back, my manager called to check in. She was a friend of mine, and I burst out into tears. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I don't know where this is coming from. And I realized that I didn't want that, kind of setup or that scenario anymore. And I didn't know that was going to happen at all. Kind of threw us for a loop. And we had to kind of figure out next steps in the interim. That's when I started a career in direct sales. But it also landed us in a city we had never visited. My husband kept his job and became a remote employee back before everybody was remote. And it was terrifying. We love DC. I had nothing bad to say about that. I was leaving best friends, but it was the right decision for my family. And it felt very, very scary for a while. And now it's the best decision we ever made. So it's funny how when you reflect back on things that you can see that, how you feel and how you emote is is very similar across situations.
So, I didn't share with you this story about me, but I have a little bit of a similar experience when I was going back. It was my first day back to work. So, my background, like long-term background, is I spent 12 years working in the pharmaceutical industry. And then I spent 10 years as a small business owner before I landed into the direct sales space. So I was my first day back from maternity leave after having my second son, Drew. And I had my first day back, I was spending the day riding with my manager at the time. And I had always been, I mean, I'm not like tooting my own horn here, but I'd always had, excellent reviews. I had gotten promotions. I had earned President's Club trips. Like I was a stellar employee. Okay. And I mean, at this point, I was in my 12th year. All right. So I show up for my first day back, and he wanted to ride with me on my first day back, which for those that have worked in the pharma industry, like that in itself wasn't very nice. Like give a girl a couple days back when emotions are at their highest before you like, let me come spend the day with you and watch your every move as you go and make all your calls. Anyway, so we sit down in the morning, that morning, to have like coffee at La Madeleine before we started the day. And I will literally never, to this day, I will never forget this. And he pulls up the reports and he says to me, so I want to review the reports with you. And I want to show you how much your territory sales decreased during your 3 months while you were on maternity leave. And I want to know what your plan is to turn those numbers around immediately. Like this is literally how we opened up the day. And I mean, I don't have to tell you because you know what you're feeling on that particular day. I was like, I have to go to the restroom. I ran into the restroom and I have a handbag on my shoulder. And I joke, I'm like, people that have heard this story, they're like, we've heard this story a million times, but it's such a traumatic story for me. I'm like, had there been a window in that bathroom, I would have climbed out of it. Like I literally would have climbed out of that window. I was done. I call my husband up. I'm like, I can't do this. And I mean, he's like, deep breaths, deep breaths, deep breaths. He's like, Tish, I support you. You do whatever you have to do. Like if you need to quit, like we're going to have to make adjustments, but I mean, I support you. And so I went back to that table and I said, I am so sorry. I have to leave. Like, I just was like, I cannot deal. So I left. He apologized later, all the things, but I went home that night. And it was that night we decided that I was leaving corporate America, which meant we were going to have to put our house up for sale to downsize in the meantime. But that's what led me to my first business as a small business owner, was that very similar experience. And it was scary. And I was scared to death, but I knew in my gut I had to make a change because that was not going to work for me.
That was it. It was totally gut instinct. It was not a game plan. It definitely got messy for a little bit before it got better while we figured it all out.
Of course.
And it was perfect. It was just the way it was all meant to be, even though I couldn't see it at the time. It was just very like, nope, that's it, done. Moving on.
Okay, so which leads to, and you may have, well, we'll talk about that in a second because I do want you to touch on your background experience in retail because I think that's also very fascinating. I think it'll be very helpful in this conversation. So we'll come back and we'll talk about that in a moment. But let's kind of fast forward a bit. So recently, you decided that it was time to potentially look at making another change. You did that change however many years ago, and obviously it had worked out for you. So then you decided it was time to look again. Kind of walk me through what led to that.
Similar to the maternity leave, it didn't come out of nowhere. It's kind of those little thoughts that are just in the back of your head that you can just, kind of easily quiet or shut down. I think it was more of kind of a deep dive into where I just was in my everyday life, which kind of felt like it was on autopilot. And that was, that's professionally and personally. Just everything was moving and it was smooth and there was no hiccups and can kind of do it. And who needs more change or stress sometimes when things, why rock the boat? I think I was kind of in that don't rock the boat situation. for a while. And you can kind of daydream about, well, it'd be nice to do this, but then you don't actually pull the trigger. That happens to me more often than not, until you kind of have that moment that kind of stops you, where you have to like take that hard shift, like exactly what you just said. And what I said after I had Luke was, that was it. It was like just a hard stop. And for me, in December, we had a very large expense for one of the boys that we needed, that came out of nowhere. And we couldn't swing that all at once. And it was funny because I can do without. I don't need things. Things are nice to have. I don't need things. And it's different for the boys. When it's for them, I have to have it. I have to do it. I need to be able to provide for it. And that was kind of my line in the sand, is once we need there, I'm like, no, if I can't swing this, knowing that there's going to be more major expenses with, college and all of that coming up, I just needed to be in a better space. And so it was that, it was literally just that one moment, that one big expense. I'm like, nope, time to pivot.
So it's interesting. When I pivoted and turned to the direct sales industry 14 years ago, Kelly, what led me to that pivot, I had then at that point been a small business owner for 10 years, and I had a wedding business. But Hurricane Ike had hit the Gulf Coast. Houston economy had taken a huge tank. My business had taken a huge tank. Okay. And I knew it wasn't going to change overnight. Like, I knew that it was going to take time before the economy picked back up. That's what led me to direct sales. And I had two bills that I was concerned about for our families. And I will say, like, I was going to do anything to be able to pay for those two bills. But one of those bills was occupational therapy for my two boys. And they were little at the time. I don't remember the ages, but we'll just say like 2 and 5, something like that. And that occupational therapy for both of them to go twice a week was $1,500 a month, and insurance would not cover it. And I mean, I was like, I'm going to figure it out. Because I mean, them stopping doing that was not an option in my mind.
Right.
I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And that is what led me to look for an option. Yeah. I love it. I didn't know that. So that's thank you for sharing that. That's really awesome. So then you decided to get informed. You decided to get informed and learn more about Park Lane. And you did that.
I did.
You got informed.
Yep.
Were you? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I knew about Park Lane. I have friends that have partnered with them, and we've kept in touch. We're friends. We're human beings. We know what's going on with each other. And so I knew about it for a long time. And at the time, it didn't fit where I was in my life, but seasons change and people change, and you can't predict from, one day to another, let alone months and months later, what might shift in your life. I didn't know that giant expense was going to fall into my lap the day before it happened. So I think it's just being able to react and seek info and figure out what makes sense for you. And then I paired that, with other things, with my background in retail, and it really just lined up is what it comes down to.
So you got informed, and I'm sure once you got informed, you started having probably some light bulb moments of, there are reasons, I'm being pulled this direction. I'm feeling a little more confident about making a change, following my gut. Were you afraid? I want to touch on that for a moment.
Terrified. I'm not afraid to use that word, that I was terrified.
Yeah.
Change is hard. Being an adult is hard. Being a mom is hard. Mm-hmm. You don't want the house of cards to fall down, so to speak. I'm a fixer. I like everything to just work and be smooth and be happy, and no problems coming from me. I'm not someone that necessarily wants to shine a light on me. I'd rather shine it on everybody else. So my gut outweighed the fear at the end of the day. I'm a very big gut instinct person from the previous story, but also just like weird major life decisions. Like, the houses that we've bought, the names of my boys, those were all like gut things that just stuck. And maybe I should have a little bit more than just my gut when I'm making big things. Like I take longer to pick up something in Target than I do like kind of bigger decisions. But it works for me. And I kind of say, if something sticks, it sticks. And this stuck after getting information and marrying it up with my background in retail. There was, you know, it just made sense, I guess, is at the end of the day. And I didn't know that. I didn't know it before.
Right. You don't know until you know, which is why we always talk about like just get educated, and then you've got the information to make an educated decision on what's right for you and what's right for your family. That's it. And sometimes just getting information alone can be scary, but I think as women, like we have to encourage each other, like walk through that fear, because there's nothing wrong with just getting informed. There's absolutely nothing wrong with getting informed.
I mean,
And there's
that's
no
the
pressure.
thing, right? It's you kind of need to give yourself that emotional, like that emotional out or that emotional safety net.
Uh-huh.
That, you know, information doesn't mean commitment. I've done that with my bigger decisions. That if something doesn't work out, that it's okay that I can then make a pivot. You know, I've told the boys before, they love when I give them like mom sayings. I roll my eyes dramatically with this. And I've told them knowledge is power. I also use the phrase like life skills a lot. They kind of get annoyed with that, or this is a teachable moment.
Keep saying it, keep annoying those. I'm like, I'm going to annoy my kids all the way to when I can no longer do it.
Right. But
That's my
knowledge
job
is
as mom.
power is one of them. You know, feeling the fear and doing it anyway is another one. And sometimes those phrases, maybe they get a little overused, but that's how I feel like that I could teach the boys. And then I was like, I'm teaching them one thing, but I'm not necessarily, you know, doing it myself. So that was part of it. And with the whole like feeling the fear, I actually just shared this in my personal page a couple of days ago, which was funny timing because I didn't know we would be chatting. It was 2 days ago was the 20th anniversary of my dad passing away.
Okay.
And he was a storied businessman, and I have a lot of great stories to share about him. But what I did in my post is I shared what I see of him and his personality, my boys, each different, you know, different traits. And it's my youngest that I've said is the bravest of the three. He wouldn't say that, but I see it. And it's because he feels the fear and does it anyway, with just trying new things that I've seen my older two maybe pull back or hesitate on. And it's funny when you look at your kid and you're like, well, they could do that. You know, like I can do that too. I'm telling them to do the things. I kind of need to walk the walk.
Uh-huh. Well, so walk me through when you got educated, what were the things that you were most impressed by, I guess, or what really intrigued you the most?
You know, it's funny because there are some very obvious things, you know, we could talk about. It could be the product or it could be the programs. But with my background's a little bit different, and it was really the retail aspect of it. So let me step back for a sec. I feel like I've been a professional shopper for most of my life. Like I was the middle schooler that had the sleep shirt that said like born to shop, like braces, perm, you know, it was a site. And my first retail job at our local mall was at the Limited. And I got that job because the manager came up to me. She had been watching me shop. Like I got hired because she watched me shop. I don't know if I should be proud of that or not, but
I think it's how we bring many of the people that join us into this business as well. We watch how they are as shoppers and how much they love the product, and then think about it.
Right.
You know, it's very similar.
It's similar. Like I would sit there and I would help other people with their shopping. That was essentially my job. Fast forward to professional careers, and I wound up in the retail industry as a buyer at a major department store, in product development at another retail store, clothing store. And I've had all of those experiences managing forecasting, open to buy, working with sourcing, working with allocation, financial planning, the design team.
Wow.
And all of those experiences and my direct relationships, I used to work directly with the vendors in the factories. I was so impressed by the speed to market for our product, because I know the length of time it takes in a development process. That used to literally be my job. And it's a really long lead time. I mean, it depends on what category. It's not necessarily just jewelry, but what category you're sourcing could be up to a year. I mean, product development is a very long process. And coupled, I had no idea that Park Lane actually ships all of their product by air to get it here the fastest way. And that is a very expensive process. I also know that at the time, it could be completely different now, but it was 15 times the cost to send something via air versus via ship. And via ship was a month, and via air was a few days up to a week at the most. So the timing is faster, which is how you can react to customer demand and trends. And even then, at a major retailer, we needed to be choosy on which shipments we would air in because of the cost. It was a healthy company,
Right.
but you just have to pick and choose to, with your bottom line. And everything at Park Lane, it's I feel that we are supported it sets us up for success to have that that product flow and that process, so that it's not something that needs to be of concern to us. We don't have anything that's out of stock because of that. So it's funny, I had no idea about any of that until I started seeking information, and it really, honestly, really blew me away. I was very impressed based on how I know it can be in the industry.
Well, and so it's interesting because you have your perspective because of your background. Okay.
Right. It's definitely not an everyday perspective.
I don't have that perspective, but I have the same appreciation from the standpoint of my perspective is I help others build their own Park Lane businesses. Like that is, where my passion is. And that is what I help women and men do every day. And obviously, in order to do that, we need product and we need healthy amounts of product. And I so appreciate that Park Lane puts, and the Levines put at whatever expense, they do this because their mission is to help women and men thrive in their lives. Their mission is to help, their consultants, their stylists, their representatives, whatever you want to call it, be able to build whatever income and business that they desire, because they know that even if things are getting stuck on boats, like the bills are still coming in for people.
Right.
So it's something that it's part of like their value system and what they do, because they're here to help us build these beautiful businesses. And I so appreciate it from that perspective. Someone like and I'm sure you do as well, obviously.
Absolutely. And it's the same, but different, it all makes sense. It's, what might blow my mind, it might be different for somebody else, but I guess it's just the ease of the business and not feeling overwhelmed, or there's something additional that I have to worry about other than just sharing something that makes me happy. And that certainly spoke to me.
I love that. That's so beautiful. And, I also think it doesn't hurt that our company has decades of relationships with our manufacturers, and you will truly be amazed. I remember my first year here, we were watching. We'll just call it the Grammys. It was the Grammys. I think it was the Grammys, but it was one of those big shows, and one of the performers wore, and it may have been Lady Gaga, but correct me if I'm wrong on that. But anyway, she wore these amazing, spectacular, like killer earrings. Okay. And both of Scott, our CEO's daughters, like immediately noticed him and were like messaging dad, like, oh my God, dad, like we need to, just like what the fashion houses, just like what all the designers do when they see these, original designer gowns, they immediately start making their versions of it. And the girls were like, we need this one, and I mean, next thing I knew, I mean, it wasn't 24 hours later and I was hearing, okay, we've got these in production and we're going to have them out in 6 weeks. And they're going to be February's rich reward level that our field is going to be able to earn for free. And we'll launch them in March. I mean, It's amazing how quickly the company can react. And that's really
That's how the entire industry is with retail. You have design houses, you have something that's on a runway, and it's inspiration. And then, there's that take, and it's the perfect marriage between the creative and the inspiration versus the customer demand. And
right.
how do you kind of find that sweet spot of kind of making everybody happy? And I just, having been here for a few weeks, I can see that
Mhm.
it really just kind of comes together pretty seamlessly.
I love that. Thank you for sharing your experience on that because
Sure.
it actually,
Love it. I love being in retail. I do not leave my full-time job because I hated it.
yeah,
It's just a demanding career to have as a mom. And
right.
frankly, I feel like this is the perfect marriage of that. I get to, especially with Park Lane and the way that, I could tell I get excited when I'm talking about my retail. Like
Mhm.
I love it. And this is just the flexible version of being able to still be a part of the industry like that.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that part. I've learned a little something having you share your experience.
I'm
So,
glad.
okay, so um I know you agree. Well, okay, let me go back for a moment. You've been here 3.5 weeks. You
Mhm.
had a just going to brag on you for a moment, Kelly, a $5,800 launch party, which like, I'm just going to say, I've never had a $5,800 party in my 14 years of experience. I've never had a $5,800 party. So huge shout out to you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You booked, I think, 8 parties. Do I have that number
Mhm.
right? 8 parties
Mhm.
that are all happening this month, right?
Mhm.
In February, during our double points month, which I know you're super excited about because our new trip was just planned.
Yep.
We're headed to Kona, Hawaii, and you're going to be earning double points on all of those parties. You've also had two new team members join you,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
You're getting them started, launching them. Um, you're doing this all virtually, I'm assuming, right?
I am. Yes. Yep. The sitting at same desk that I'm talking to you now.
And and I don't know how you I know you have experience in the jewelry business, but I don't know how you did your parties before. Like, were you doing virtual before? And what's been your experience of how we run our virtual parties?
I was not doing virtual until COVID.
Uh-huh.
That was just, I'm a people person.
Yeah.
I,
Me
I
too.
love I love chatting with people and getting in front. I think it's super cool that this industry in general is a vehicle to meet people that I would have never met before, whether they are teammates or customers or just in the community. When I moved to Charlotte probably 7 or 8 months after I started in the direct sales industry, and it helped me learn my city by getting out and about because we had never been here before. So it's cool that it expands you to new audiences. But I was in person for sure. So pivot, go online, and I'll say with the experience of just being in the last 3 weeks, it's just been simple.
Uh-huh.
It's been simple and it's been fun internally. And thank you to you and everybody else that's come before me. The tools are amazing. It is seamless to plug and play and take advantage of what you want to take advantage of. That's your choice, which is something I also really value in this industry, is just being able to run your business how you want to. The programs that are set up, especially for the amount of free product that we can earn, it's something that was really important to me because I could run my business with my friends and family and customers. I can spoil them. I can share my rewards with them. That was really important to me. So there's tools if you want to take advantage. To be honest, I actually went completely on my own and have been so far. That's kind of fun for me to just be a little ad hoc and completely off the cuff. And I think that just feels like a genuine space. The reaction has been so positive that I've just fed off of that. In fact, it's funny because if I'm doing an event, it's a mix. You might be sharing online or there's a live, and you can choose how you want it to be. But it's just been really engaging. Anyone that runs an online business knows that there are algorithms and tools that maybe don't make life easy sometimes. And that hasn't been my experience because I've been getting so much engagement. I don't feel like that's been a wall that's been up for me. And frankly, after I do a live, I'm sitting here looking at all of my jewelry here on my desk.
Uh-huh.
After I do a live, I get multiple wish lists that night, but sometimes before I'm even done sharing live. And I've had multiple people have to like cut back on what their wish list is. They're like, yeah, I can't get all of this right now. So it's fun. You know, the customer experience has been so simple. I've gotten that feedback too. I do the work, I create cards for them. That's how I would want to do it, even if that wasn't necessarily what made the most sense, because I just prefer to run a really personal service. And all they do is secure checkout. And I've had people both in the industry and out of the industry tell me just it like couldn't be easier for them.
I absolutely, and I was going to ask you, what are your customers saying about their experience or
They're
what they
sending me
love?
selfies. They're sending
Oh,
me pictures of their mail. They're sending me pictures of them trying things on, and they might or might not be normally selfie people, you
right,
know.
right.
But they're just so excited to get their product. They're blown away by the variety. There really is something for everybody, which I love. If I am looking at my jewelry in front of me right now, it is all gold because I wear just gold by choice.
Uh-huh.
And it's very kind of classic clean because that is my style. That great. That's awesome. I can get whatever I want and have plenty of options with that style. And just because maybe that's what I have in front of me to show my live doesn't mean someone can't pop online to the site and fall in love with something else. I've actually been learning about more product I didn't even really know that there was
Uh-huh.
because one of my friends picked it up. And I'm like, those are adorable on you. I need to look at that more, you
Yeah.
know?
You'll see more and more of this where people get on the site to put their wish list together, and then they send you the things that they're loving, and you're like, I've never even seen that before. I don't
Yeah.
even know what that is. Like,
Yeah, that's totally happened to me. And I'm
yeah,
like, this is great. I had no idea it existed.
yeah.
They happened to me at my launch. And I'm like, I love that. Who knew
What
that
has
was
your
there?
customer said? I'm just curious, especially with your background. What do you think about our packaging? And I don't have a card. Well, I guess I do have a card here. Aren't any earrings on here, but what do you think about our packaging, Kelly?
Oh, here, you know what? I have some earrings on a card right
Oh
here.
yeah, show your,
There we go.
yes.
So
Yeah.
everything comes, you know, on this great card. Box, you know, solid, nice box with the foam padding. You're
Uh-huh.
going to laugh. This is actually a myth. I don't know if I made it up in my head, how I even thought this. I
Okay.
thought that stylists or customers had to pay to have their product shipped to them in a box.
Oh, that's so funny.
No
No.
idea. No
Yeah.
idea where that came from. Not true.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah. They can
yeah,
they can pay for us. They can pay for the fancy the fan I kind of refer to this as like the high end box. If someone wants this because they're using it as a gift,
it's a
you
gift,
can have
right?
this in. But I mean, I'm kind of like, why would you when everything comes in this? It's
Exactly.
not needed.
No, just had some, you know, like I said, because the rewards allow me to spoil my customers. I do giveaways in my online events. And because of the beautiful packaging, in fact, it's going to the post office right after we chat. I
Uh-huh.
packaged up in the boxes and can ship to my customers. And it's gift ready. You know, they keep it for themselves, they give for a gift. No, it's beautiful.
Love it. All right. So I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Um, I know we talked about this for a moment before we jumped on, but I was really excited that you agreed and said yes, having only been here a few short weeks. Will you share? And I'm sure you were like, this makes me really nervous, whatever, but whatever, whatever.
I
You're
told you I would
doing
share.
you're doing it because you feel it could possibly benefit someone else. So share why you agreed to do this in just such a short period of time with about 24 hours notice.
Definitely was a little terrified
Yeah.
at first. I'm not going to lie. But when I was talking about this state of feeling kind of on autopilot and having thoughts, and part of those thoughts, to be honest, was, am I going back to a full-time career? I mean, I definitely ran the gamut of what is this next step for me? What does that look like? What's going to meet the needs of my family? But um, I sat in that space for a really long time, and it wasn't. I told you about the expense, but I didn't know what was going to make me take the next step forward. And so I actually watched another coffee chat that you had done a few weeks ago, And it was so helpful for me
Mhm.
to be able to feel like I can get information in a safe way, if that makes sense. I overanalyze everything. It's a terrible trait. Um, and and I was taking the steps, but I was hesitant. It wasn't a full out sprint. It was very tiny baby steps. And it felt like an okay way for me to let thoughts in that I wasn't ready to let in before. And I love that. And I actually another friend of mine felt the same way,
Mhm.
that wound up joining Park Lane as a stylist. So I just hope that it helps other people. I think it is very natural to have changes in life that you don't anticipate, that you need to just address, and address for the benefit of your family first and foremost. You know, my background is majority retail. My actual college degree is in political science.
Oh.
Didn't really use that very much. Sorry, mom and dad. But that's what led me to DC. I worked at a law firm for a year and a half, which is how I figured out I was going to pivot, a
Yeah.
hard pivot to retail. But at the law firm is where I met my husband. And then we started the family in DC from that. So, like, you know, everything kind of leads to the next thing. When I was at that job, I found an ad, I'm dating myself, in the newspaper for being a buyer at the department store. Like, every step leads to the next step. It's kind of the building block.
Mhm.
So even if you choose one path, I don't think that that's saying anything negative about the path before that. I have nothing bad to say about any of my jobs that I've had. And because of moves and kids and whatnot, I've had a few. They all made me who I am. They all made sense at the time. They all were for the betterment of either me or my small family or my larger family. And
Uh-huh.
and knowing that that was what was keeping me going, it kind of took some of the fear away.
Well, and I didn't know, because again, we haven't spoken about a lot of this. I didn't know that you were kind of contemplating what is the next step going to be, and does it possibly look like me going back to the career that I stepped away from many years ago and the kids and all those things. And this is what I would like, had I been talking to you at the time, like this is what I would have been saying to you, because I believe this so firmly. There's a reason that this industry has worked, this profession has worked so well for you and me both all of these years. I've been in it 14 years. You've been in it 9, I think you said, because you're raising your kids. I've been raising my kids. I am such a believer that flexibility is the most important thing. I mean, my children are now 19, 20, and 23. And I had my 23-year-old here. He got in late last night, was here briefly for a few hours this morning, and left just a little while ago. And I mean, his needs are different today, but he needs me as much today as he did a decade ago. And I can't imagine not being able to stop and do what I need to do when I choose to help and have that flexibility. And what I know about you, just from your experience and the success that you've had, is you're very good at what you do. You're very good at what you do. And it would have been a shame. It would have been a shame for you to leave something that you've experienced so much success with personally, and it's worked so well for your family, to go back to what you had to leave so long ago because you needed more options and you needed more flexibility. And I'm so happy that you chose to stay in this industry that has worked so well, because your boys are going to need you that flexibility as much for the next 10 years as they have the last.
For sure. You know, I joke, it's like little people, little, you know, problems, whatever, little people, little expenses too. I mean, all of it just gets bigger as they get bigger.
Yes, it does. You cannot put a price tag on all of that. You just cannot. So I'm so happy. I'm so happy you found Park Lane. I'm happy you got courageous. What's been your biggest surprise? I don't think I've asked you that since being here.
Um, I think how quickly my fear went away.
Okay.
I definitely thought that that was going to feel like the knot in my stomach for a really long time. It was emotional. It's just who I am. I'm,
Mhm.
I'm the full package. And it's, I thought that that was going to kind of sit deep in my gut for a while, and it didn't. I think once I started sharing both verbally and then product and then working, and it, I felt like physically lighter, not just happy, but just everything felt lighter and felt right. And it just kind of made sense. And that's how other decisions have been. It just, again, you kind of have to balance of the fear versus the gut instinct, right? And so I think the aha was, it was fine. It was fine.
I always say fear is a liar. You know,
Yeah,
it's telling you things in your head that simply aren't true. And I think where you were in that space of trying to figure out what the next step was going to be is like 10 times worse than actually once you made the decision.
oh, 2000%. I mean, it
Then
was
you
just
just
a
need to do
yucky space to be in for a while, a bad headspace, and it was
it.
just bringing me down. And then all my people feel that too.
Uh,
So I think everyone in my house is probably excited that I'm feeling light and happy.
they're going to be real excited when you earn that trip to Kona, Hawaii.
Right? I
Yes,
know. Oh,
yes.
trust me. They one of the expenses coming up is going to be a car sooner rather than later, probably with a new driver. And so, yes, he's definitely like, so
Uh-huh. Yeah.
let's go car.
Oh, my kids were the ones that were the most excited about our Mercedes car program. I mean, they were like on me from like week one. So, when are you going to be earning that Mercedes, Mom? When are you going to be earning that Mercedes? And when I did earn it and I did get it, then my oldest then got I mean, like that's what I did. My old, my car I currently had went to him, and I was like, well, you're not going to be rolling around in this Mercedes. I can promise
Right? I
that.
know. I think they think that. I think that that's definitely the assumption. I can just put this out there
They're
that
like,
you're not going to get
let's just
Mercedes.
be very clear here right now. It is not a sign of how little or how much or little I don't love you. It's that this is mama's.
No, that's not going to the school parking lot.
Exactly. Kelly, this has been such a pleasure. I so appreciate you doing this and being brave and willing to just kind of share your experience. Is there anything that we've missed, we haven't shared that you'd
I don't
love
think
to?
so. I think it's just you don't know until you know. You
Mhm,
kind of have to, fly before you walk, I guess.
mhm.
It's no different, this decision than other decisions that weigh on your head and your heart. And I think it sounds probably maybe trite, and people have said this, but I do wish that I did it sooner, because I can see impact on my family. I just wish I had kind of gotten out of that fear state for a
Mhm.
while, because everyone is just thriving more because of it.
Well, you know, woulda, coulda, shoulda. That's the thing. When people are ready to hear and get educated, and often it is a similar experience to what you experienced, which was something happened in your family in December, and all of a sudden it became
Yep.
like I have to actually look at other options, and sometimes
Mhm.
that is what kind of pushes. Sometimes you got to have one door closed for another door to open. I mean, I've seen that happen many times as well, in my own personal experience as well. But it's like you're here. We're so happy for you. This is just the beginning, Kelly.
Well,
You're
the
going to have a
community
whole,
has been amazing. Everyone is obviously welcoming and genuine and patient. And shout out to Allison Kochi, who is my longtime friend, and just listened. That was basically what it came down to. She just listened to her friend ask a lot of questions. Sorry.
you know what? This is coming from the girl who, in the fifth grade or third grade, I don't remember what class it was, but I got yelled at by my math teacher. Either I think it was fifth. I'm pretty sure it was fifth grade. My math teacher told me I was in front of the whole classroom. I was asking too many questions, and I'm like, and then I went to my next period, which was science. Mrs. Rako, love her, love that woman, and I like had my head on my desk and I was crying. It like just crushed my soul. She was like, "What's wrong?" And I said, I got in trouble because I asked too many questions. She spent the entire period talking about how and why you should never stop asking questions. Like, and I felt like $1,000,000 when I left that day. I'm the question person. I'm like,
Yeah.
ask the questions. Then you get educated. Then you got the information. then you can make a sound decision. That's it.
I'm super analytical. Anyone that knows me knows that. I am to a fault. Super, like I'm just visual, numbers, touch and feel, feeling the product. I hadn't seen the product,
Oh,
like
we,
it's COVID.
I,
We're
I,
in a four-way. I hadn't seen the product in person ever until like 6 weeks ago. And it's gorgeous. And I knew that, I mean, I loved it and I started wearing it, but then I knew my people would love it. So it's just talk. That's like a life thing, right? Just stop bottling things up. I feel like it's like therapy. Like stop bottling things up. Just talk to your people and whatever's weighing on your heart, and it just will make you feel lighter.
we didn't talk about the jewelry, and I'm sorry, we're going to end on this, but having your background, I'm sure that I'm not going to say you're picky. I don't know that to be a fact, but I would assume you're particular. Say that. I'm assuming you're particular because of your experience. You've loved the jewelry.
I do. I was blown away. I do think that is a myth. I'll bust that right now. I had not heard as many positive things about the product, and that's just not true. But I didn't know. I didn't know until it was right in front of me, until I started wearing it, and until I knew. And it wasn't instant. Like the minute I got the product, I was like, oh boy, we're in trouble. Because I can't share anything in my life, even if it's just like a recommendation to like, I do home meal delivery, like just a friend to friend recommendation. I can't share anything that doesn't feel authentic to me that I wouldn't use myself. And,
of course.
yeah,
I mean, I think every good person is that way. I'm the same way.
And so I knew that made me feel confident, because I'm like, no, I love this. I know that you will too. And so that actually took my biggest fear away immediately, was just seeing the product in person.
Well, and I keep shouting this from the rooftops, but I'll just reiterate it here today because there may be people watching that have not seen or know me. Sometimes people will tell me, well, I know that Park Lane has one of the best compensation plans in the industry. I'm like, okay, yes, they do. Absolutely. But this is the deal. If you can have the best compensation plan, but if you don't have an amazing product,
right?
Consumers are smart. They're not going to buy something if it's not an amazing product, an amazing value. So you've got to have amazing product and amazing programs that people want to host and buy to then benefit from the best compensation plan. I mean, one has to lead to the other. One thing alone would not make for this, 66 years of success here. So
right. I didn't step into being able to, oh, by the way, I did pay off that family expense, that unexpected expense. I've already paid that off. Oh. But I didn't step into that immediately. That was because I was sharing, people were loving, they were shopping, they were buying gifts. Like it all complements each other. That wasn't like all of a sudden, just because I showed up to work one day, I got a paycheck. No. That's the difference with what we do now versus what we used to do.
Because this is the thing, I know for me, I had an emotional attachment to what I had represented for 10 years. I did. I mean, I'll admit it. I had an emotional love affair with what I represented. And so it took time for me to kind of, develop what I now have is an emotional love affair and attachment for the line that I represent now. But what helped me get there was customers telling me, oh my God, I'm in love. Tish, I've never had such, these earrings are the best earrings I've ever bought from you. Like all of the accolades, all of the positivity, that's what kind of helps you move from one to the other. And you realize there's a lot of emotion. Mm-hmm. When you take an unbiased opinion who doesn't have an emotional attachment, and you're just like, exactly. Oh, what do you think of this jewelry? They're like, what do I like? How can I get it?
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And sometimes you need that. You need that affirmation from your people, your neutral parties, right? And I've had that in the last few weeks for sure.
Oh, well, thank you, Kelly. Thank you again so much. You are a doll. I'm so happy for you. The best is yet to come for you. I have no doubt. I appreciate you giving up your time this morning. And you're just a beautiful soul inside and out. And I just look forward to getting to know you better
Me too.
And I can't wait for us to be drinking Mai Tais in Kona, Hawaii sooner rather than later, because I'm
That's
certain
right.
we'll be there.
It'll be great. I can't wait.
So thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Natalie. Bye.